Welcome all of you to the marvelous campus of Indian Institute of Technology, Gandhinagar. I will request today's dignitary, Shri Hasmukh Adhiya sir, Shri Esg Haidar sir, Shri Gyanendra Mani ji, Shri Amit Prashant ji, Shri Udit Bhatia ji, Shri Sundar Manoharan ji, and Shri Aditya Handa ji to kindly take their seat on dais. Climate Change Department, Government of Gujarat is celebrating the Panchamrit Mahotsav for youth outreach program for the climate change across the state of Gujarat. This program was started by Honorable Chief Minister Sri Bhupendra Patel ji on 17th September, and we are organizing various programs on different thematic areas at various locations. Today evening, we are doing a panel discussion on climate change and attaining $5 trillion Indian economy. And we are very fortunate to have very distinguished members as our panel discussion. I will request Shri S.J. Haidar sir to kindly welcome Shri Hasmukh Adhiya sir with a flower and a book. The book we are presenting is authored by none other than our Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi on climate change. Our Honorable Prime Minister is a visionary leader and has authored the book Convenient Action, Continuity for Change, and also established the Department of Climate Change way back in the year 2009. I will request our Joint Secretary Shri Bipin Talati sir to welcome Shri S.J. Haidar, Principal Secretary of Climate Change Department, with flower and a book. We are also presenting the book Gujarat Ni Parampara, which highlights the traditional practices. So, Shri Amit Prasant ji, thank you very much. I would like to request Shri Darshan Dave ji to welcome Gyanendra Mani ji, the Chief General Manager of NABARD. Thank you, sir, for joining us today evening. I will request Shri Darshak Vatsraj ji to welcome Professor Udit Bhatia. Thank you, dignitaries. Today we are discussing mainly on climate finance and importance of aspects of sustainable development in the growth of our economy, with inclusive and sustainable growth of all the people and all the sectors of our economy. So today I would like to request our Principal Secretary Shri S.J. Haidar sir to give his welcome address, and we would also like to welcome our distinguished guest Shri Sundar Manoharan ji on the dais. I will request Shri Hiren Silajia to facilitate Sundar Manoharan ji with the book and the flower.
Good evening, everybody. I would like to take this opportunity to welcome our chief guest, Dr. Hasmukh Adhiya, who happens to be the chairman of the Standing Committee of Pandit Deen Dayal Energy University, also Honorable Chancellor of Central University of Gujarat, non-executive chairman of Bank of Baroda, and he has been a former Union Revenue and Finance Secretary. Shri Gyanendra Maniji, Chief General Manager of NABARD, Shri Sundar Manoharan, Director General, Pandit Deen Dayal Energy University, Udit Bhatia ji, Amit Prashant ji has been very nice and kind enough, our in-charge director of IIT Gandhinagar, to have been gracious enough to give us this venue. I welcome all of you, esteemed participants and distinguished members of the gathering, ladies and gentlemen. Climate change and $5 trillion economy. It makes very interesting and animated discussion. When we talk about climate change, till some time back, actually the concept of climate change to our mind generally was looked upon as something very remote, very distant, somewhat abstract, and we were not in a position to relate ourselves to the concept of climate change. But with the passage of time, gradually it dawned upon us that climate change is not a very distant prospect. It's not a very remote prospect. It is very much staring in our face. It is something which perhaps we would have thought at some point of time, something which would show or manifest its deleterious effects, maybe after a few centuries or maybe after a few generations, perhaps started manifesting its, ugly different sorts of manifestations in ways which started hitting us hard actually, and we began to realize that it's not a distant prospect. Our Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji, when he was Honorable Chief Minister of the state of Gujarat, through his visionary initiative, he was instrumental in setting up an exclusive department of climate change way back in 2009 on 17th September. And this happened to be the first instance in the entire country and also in the entire continent that we had a separate exclusive department of climate change. And at the international global level, I am told it happens to be the fourth such instance. So such was the visionary initiative of our Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji. Now with this exclusive dedicated department, we started focusing on the various aspects of climate change. We started commissioning research projects also. And most importantly, since people were not knowing exactly what climate change is, and over a period of time, everybody has realized that each one of us has got a significant role to play insofar as addressing the concerns of climate change is concerned. It is not something which is merely to be addressed by the government, by the industry, but as an enlightened citizen of the country, each one of us has got a role to play. A housewife has got a role to play, an industrialist has got a role to play, a senior citizen has got a role to play, a student has got a role to play. So, heightening of awareness, sensitization of people, it became one of the priority areas of the climate change department. And you would be glad to know that this particular fortnight, commencing 17th September, and it would go on till 30th September, it is being celebrated as Panchamrut Fortnight, Climate Change Awareness and Youth Outreach Program. So what we have decided is throughout the entire length and breadth of the state, we would be organizing different programs on different aspects relating to climate change. So today we have gathered here for climate change and $5 trillion economy, which is very interesting, just to give you a glimpse of what all other topics we have thought about. So we have like combating desertification and desert economy. This particular seminar we have kept at Shyamji Krishna Verma University at Kutch Bhuj. Say for instance, we talked about water management, we would be talking about solid waste management, renewables, and various other aspects. Now, climate change, actually it unfolds huge areas where, we have tremendous financial implications. Let me take this opportunity to tell you that the government of Gujarat constituted a task force headed by Dr. Hasmukh Adia sir about maybe 3 months ago. And we had many rounds of deliberations, and we constituted a large number of subgroups also, and we organized seminars on various topics at different places. And finally, under the able guidance and leadership of Dr. Hasmukh Adia sir, the committee headed by Dr. Hasmukh Adia submitted a report to the state government on what particular role the state of Gujarat can play insofar as India's attaining a $5 trillion economy in the next perhaps 3 to 4 years is concerned. And we are, say, zeroing in on about $500 billion of economy insofar as the state government is concerned. Now, in climate change, when we talk about climate, addressing the concerns of climate change, we have like adaptation and mitigation. When you talk about renewables, when you talk about, say, green hydrogen, you talk about, you would be knowing all these things, like initially in the national determined contributions, we were supposed to have renewables to the tune of 40% of our energy basket by 2030. And we feel very happy to tell you that insofar as the state of Gujarat is concerned, in terms of the installed capacity, the renewables, they account for about close to 42 to 43% of the energy basket in terms of installed capacity. So what we were to attain by year 2030, we have achieved now only. Now, of course, in Panchamrut, you know that by 2030, India is supposed to meet its energy requirement to the tune of 50% with the help of renewables. So this is one thing. Then we talk about reduction of carbon intensity. We talk about meeting our energy requirements to the tune of 50% and attaining net zero by 2070. So all these things, they have huge financial spin-offs on the economy. And these are the sectors, very challenging sectors. We have got a large number of more than 50 to 60 green startups, climate action startups. They are into energy generation, energy distribution, they are into waste management, they are into e-mobility. So all these areas, they unfold vast expanse where we can, we can do marvels insofar as economy is concerned. So it's very, very interesting. While we look at the prospects of climate change, adaptation, and mitigation, a large number of such areas have come up for us, which would unfold, unfold a vast ocean, and there is an infinite potential which needs to be tapped. So under these circumstances, it's going to be 1.5 hour sort of brainstorming with the help of panel discussion to be ably moderated by Dr. Hasmukh Adia sir. But this is just the beginning. This would, help us put thinking cap, and then we have to move ahead. And I'm pretty sure that all of us would get involved in this exercise, and we would make the most of the deliberations. So with these words, once again, I would like to thank Dr. Hasmukh Adia sir and all the panelists who have made it convenient to remain present for this particular panel discussion. And in particular, I am also indebted to Amit Prashantji and the team for having kind enough to have spared this good, spacious hall for this particular purpose, and all of you to have made it convenient to come. So thank you once again, and I am pretty much hopeful that these deliberations would go a long way in helping us pave the way on how best to make the most of the challenges and how best to convert these challenges into opportunity, as has been rightly observed by our Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji. And we are pretty sure that the adaptation and mitigation exercises in the field of climate change would go a long way in contributing to Gujarat's attaining $500 billion economy, and India's attaining $5 trillion economy in the next 3 to 4 years. Thank you once again.
Thank you, sir. Haider sir is spearheading climate action in Gujarat since last few years, and notably we have got many recognitions as a state. Importantly, Niti Aayog in the present year 2022 published the report, and in the climate and energy index Gujarat ranks number 1. That is a very prestigious thing for all of us for the state of Gujarat. I would like to welcome Shri Aditya Handa, who has joined for today's discussion, and would request Amitaben to kindly welcome Aditya ji with flower and book. So we will now move to the panel discussion mode. And before the panel discussion, we will have introductory remarks by Shri Hasmukh Adhia sir. As Haider sir told, Hasmukh Adhia sir and the committee has recently published the report for Gujarat with a specific reference to 5 trillion economy goal. So, sir, through this portable mic, it will be more comfortable, sir. So, okay, sir. Please, sir. Yeah, please, sir.
My dear colleague, Mr. Haider, the Principal Secretary in charge of Higher Education as well as Climate Change Department of Government of Gujarat, Mr. Amit Prashant, the Director of IIT Gandhinagar, other distinguished panelists, Mr. Gyanendra Mani, Mr. Udit Bhatia, Mr. Aditya Handa, and Dr. S. Sundar Manoharan, dear faculty members, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Haider is an old hand at Climate Change Department. You would be surprised to know that he has been in charge of the Climate Change Department of Gujarat for last 7 years. Now this is very rare in a bureaucracy, and somebody is in charge of a department for 7 years. Of course, it's an additional charge for him because it's a very small department as of now. He has always been holding some other senior charge. So he knows a lot about climate change, and probably all of you also know much more than what I do about climate change. I'm the least knowledgeable person on the subject of climate change here. But I know a little bit of finance, and so I can give you a perspective on the 5 trillion economy target that India has got. So let me give you a bit of introduction. I'll take not more than 10 minutes because I know all of the panelists are going to throw more light on the subject. In 2019, in the year 2019, we had GDP of 2.8 trillion at that time, 2.8 trillion. Now, this is the GDP in terms of dollar, conversion of India's GDP in terms of dollar at the current price. In 2019, it was 2.8 trillion US dollar, Indian economy. At that time, the Prime Minister announced an express desire of India to become a 5 trillion economy by 2025. So at the end of financial year 24-25, he wanted India to become a 5 trillion economy in dollar terms. In 21-22, in the GDP estimate of 21-22, we are at 3.52 trillion dollar economy. Already we have reached 3.52 trillion dollar economy in 21-22. Because of COVID, where we lost 2 years, the GDP growth rate was in minus, deeply into minus in 1 year, and in the second year it came up, but on the whole it became zero sum. For 2 years, we lost in GDP growth rate. So now, the estimate is that India should be reaching the target of 5 trillion economy by 2027. So we are behind by 2 years. But it is estimated by economists that even if we have a real GDP growth rate of 7% per annum for the next 5 years, 7% only, and India is likely to do much better than that. Even if we have a real GDP growth rate of 7%, we will achieve this target by the year 2027. Okay? This is the thing. Does anybody know why Prime Minister chose the target of 5 trillion, not 6 trillion, not 4 trillion, not 4.5 trillion? Does anybody know? There is a background to it. The background is that if you see the present economies of the world, then USA is on the top. The US economy is $25.3 trillion. $25 trillion US economy. The second in the world today is China, which is $19.1 trillion economy. Then there are two countries, Japan and Germany. Japan is $4.9 trillion. Germany is $4.2 trillion. India is right now at 3.53. If we accelerate at the rate of 7%, and if we achieve 5 trillion economy, these two, Japan and Germany, they are not likely to have any growth rate, or maybe very minimal growth rate in the next 5 years, because these are advanced countries and their economies are stagnating mostly. Some of them are having minus growth rate also. So they may have a couple of years of minus growth rate, couple of years of real growth rate. At the end, they will still remain below 5 after 5 years, Japan and Germany. So the purpose is that India should become world's third largest economy. That is the purpose. So that's why the target of 5 trillion economy is there. What should be the contribution of Gujarat in that? As was mentioned, we had a task force which went into the various figures. And we have estimated that Gujarat today has 8.3% share in the national GDP, although our population is 5%, around 5%. But we have a 8.3% share in the national economy. If India has to run faster, if India has to run fast, Gujarat has to run faster. So we are estimating that in the target of 5 trillion economy, the share of Gujarat should become 10% instead of 8.3%. So Gujarat should have an ambition of achieving 500 billion economy by the year 2027. And for that, we have estimated that even if Gujarat gets a real GDP growth rate of about 9%, India will grow at 7% average. But Gujarat should have an ambition of achieving at least 9% real GDP growth rate, which is possible. It's not difficult for Gujarat to do it. The history has shown it. Then we will be able to not only reach 500 billion target, but we will have a larger share in the national GDP, which is 10%. So this is the estimate of this one. Now the question comes, how come these two topics are connected? The 5 trillion economy and the climate change. Looks like two different, it looks like apple and orange. I mean, what is the connection between 5 trillion economy and climate change? There is a connection. Both are completely interrelated. Both are completely related. If India grows faster, then proportionate amount for climate change will also be possible. It will be possible to allocate more amount by government for climate change department, because with accelerated growth rate, there are tax revenues coming in, so government can give more resources for climate change. And also the manufacturing growth rate which will take place. will have to involve the modern green technologies. And that is how there is a connection. On the other hand, the spending which is going to occur in the green technology, in the climate change subjects, that spending will boost up the economy also further. And so there is a direct correlation both ways. The 5 trillion economy target will impact the climate change positively, and the spending on climate change initiatives of public as well as private sector will end up having higher GDP in the economy. So both ways there is a connection possible. According to me, there are 3 major areas where the interconnection will take place. 3 areas. The first and the foremost is green finance. Now, some of you who are students may not understand what is green finance. Green finance is a phenomenon in which the multilateral agencies of the world, some of the private banks, some of the public sector banks, all of them, they want to fund the green initiative. So there is a green finance available. There was a time when corporate social responsibility was being discussed in a big way, CSR, corporate social responsibility. And all the companies used to tim-tom about it, drumbeat about it. Oh, we have got CSR, we are spending 2% on CSR. Now there is a new concept which has come in the corporate world. It is called ESG concept. Every company is adopting ESG. E stands for environment, S stands for social, and G stands for governance. So all the companies of the world, including banks, are adopting the ESG in their business plan. They want to do something which is helping the environment, so that is the E aspect of it. They want to do something which is socially relevant, so a business enterprise can earn profit out of adding value to the lives of people. For example, cell phone industry. They must be making money, but it also added a lot of value to the life of people by bringing those services in a cheaper mode to the common man. So this is the social agenda of business. And finally, the governance. The governance aspect of any corporate organization has to be emphasized. And that's what is the agenda now adopted by most companies. Even in a public sector concern, like I'm chairing the board of Bank of Baroda, we have a separate ESG agenda. And we have got a policy on ESG approved by the board. So it is happening in a big way. Most companies will go in for ESG agenda. And we are also, as Bank of Baroda, we are looking for good clients who are promoting the green ventures, and we would like to do more funding to such initiatives rather than any other manufacturing units. And in terms of real estate financing also, we always look at the aspect of use of non-conventional energy and how the design of the building is made so that it is conserving the energy. So that also we'll look at. That gets a plus point also. So the green finance is going to be an important area for mitigating the ill effects of climate change. Second point is green manufacturing. It's coming in a big way, more than what you can imagine. It's coming in a big way. And so you hear about all the hydrogen-based manufacturing now coming up. So all that is going to be the order of the day. People are already thinking about it. The third one is green mobility. Just as we have a target of achieving at least 50% of our energy requirement from non-conventional by 2030, similarly, I would expect India should have a target of having at least 50% of its vehicles being run on electrical, if possible. I don't know whether it's feasible or not. The climate change people can tell me. But it's a goal we have to have, green mobility, the transportation sector using non-conventional energy, particularly the solar energy or electrical energy which is produced out of solar. So if you can have 50% of the vehicles under electrical vehicles, and those electrical vehicles can be charged out of solar or other non-formal types of energy, then we can achieve green mobility in a big way. So that's an area which will boost up the 5 trillion economy also. So these are some of the points that I wanted to tell you. I think I'll stop here, and we'll request the other panelists to start. How do we go about it? We'll start with Professor Amit. Udit Bhatia, will you start, or what order would you like to? I don't know which topic each one of you is going to talk about, but at random, let me give you chance to express your thought about it. Huh? So we will have, it's 7:04, we will have about 40 minutes, so each one of you can spend 10 minutes, right? Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So my friends would like, happy to know that Hasmukh Adia sir is also son of soil of Gujarat, like our Honorable Prime Minister. And if you see through his illustrious career, Hasmukh Adia sir has been on board of very major important companies, including State Bank of India, Bank of Baroda, Reserve Bank of India, LIC. He was also instrumental as a board member of Indian Institute of Technology, Gandhinagar, this campus, when it was upcoming and it was new. So thank you very much, sir. And now we will have panel members to address one by one. So Professor Udit Bhatia is a very young and dynamic professor from IIT Gandhinagar itself, and he has been working with Department of Climate Change on the vulnerability assessment and downscaling of climate change impact on various districts. So we'll listen to him.
Thank you, Shwetalji, for kind introduction, and a very good evening to all of you. So I think this is very topical discussion that we are going to have today, as we learned from our August speakers that, you know, finance and climate change, or financing various activities around climate change, they look like two disjoint sets that they never intersect, which is certainly not true, especially in context of developing nations like India. So I'll just give you some examples. So my work, for example, focuses a lot on infrastructure resilience, that we have already built so much infrastructure around us. We have roads, we have dams, we have critical functionality systems like hospitals and so on, which were designed perhaps 30 years ago, 50 years ago. Some of these facilities are still upcoming, but we design them using some set of standards. However, when we talk about climate change as engineers, as scientists, we say that past is no longer guide to future, because things are changing, things are shifting for which we were designing and so on. And when we talk about all these projects which we are building, which we are maintaining, they would entail heavy investments. And these, I'm not using word expenses here, I'm saying investments, because, you know, good roads would bring good companies would add to our goal towards 5 trillion economy. So it is a cycle that keeps on feeding itself. So where does this climate change adaptation comes into picture? So now we have a set of understanding that, okay, what is changing, what is no longer stationary. Now we have to design, we have to maintain, we have to rebuild. That would entail money. So I was reading a book by Nasser Nicholas Taleb called as Anti-Fragility, where they say that when you have an opportunity to rebuild or opportunity to build even better. That is, you design it for here, disasters happens, damage happens. We see that it's a peril, it's a catastrophe, but that is also an opportunity to design a system which is even stubborn, which is even stronger and much more reliable than it was previously. But then next obvious question comes, how we are going to finance it? Who is going to pay for it? So I was looking into a few developed nations that Shri Hasmukhji was mentioning. One of countries that Hasmukhji mentioned was US, where they are already 5-folds in terms of GDP, around 5-folds where we aspire to be. And they introduced the concept of something called as municipal bonds. That is, we will build for you, you pay for it, we will pay an interest. So it's a very simple terminology behind municipal bonds. Now, a few companies, startups started investigating into, can we really assign a grade to these municipal bonds? That is, this particular city, this particular state is more resilient, investing heavily into climate-informed practices, so their municipal bond has to be good. Because you as a buyer is investing into the direct infrastructure system. You are paying your valuable money to build the roads, build the infrastructure. Now you have a rating as an investor, and you already understand the risks associated with a design of particular system in much better way. What it means for us, countries like India. Now, that's the circle I was talking about. When we have an opportunity to build, we have a set goal of 5 trillion economy. I think these are some of the possibilities that we need at this particular hour, that how we can bring people to build anti-fragile systems. Another thing I noticed in the statistics of this muni bonds in US is that there is around 11% decline from last year to this year, which is further expected to decline. Some year it would be up because they are more or less developed. However, if you see the scale of investments that go into our infrastructure systems, the opportunities, the scale, the challenges, all of them are humongous. But it is very exciting that how we have a few systems to look at, do even better, and really look for an anti-fragile system. And there is no second opinion that if you talk about states like Gujarat, which have heavily invested their power infrastructure system, which have heavily invested into their transportation system, which have heavily invested into their healthcare system, that is primarily also the consideration that various investors, various organizations take, and that's the reason where Gujarat becomes the most favorable destination for investment. Now, but when we talk about these efforts, Gujarat has to be a leader, but that also means other states also have to perform at the same frequency. It's becoming rank topper of the same class where everybody is doing amazingly well. And that is, again, takes me back to the lessons of anti-fragility, that taking cues from all these dots, connecting them in climate-sensitive or climate-aware way, I see that rather than a peril that we are looking at, this is an amazing opportunity to build even better and look for an anti-fragile society. So that's all from my side. I hope I have not exceeded the time. Thank you.
Today we also have with us Shri Sundar Manoharanji, who himself is the Director General of Pandit Deen Dayal Energy University. So energy is also one of the very key domain when where he deals. He is not just only scientist or administrator, but he is also the management guru. So he also incubates new startups and specifically into climate action startups. Sir, please. Yeah, we also would like to take this opportunity to congratulate the PDEU under the able leadership of Director General Shri Sundar Manoharanji. They have received the A++ rating from the NAC.
Thank you so much for the kind words. I want to thank Dr. Adya Saab and Dr. Haider for having us here. Good to be back in IIT after a long time. My colleagues Jain, Dr. Amit, to get connected with all of them while we were at IIT Kanpur. We had a unique opportunity of hosting a similar conclave but of a different nature, especially with those who are working in oil and gas sector. Dr. Adya Saab preferred to have PDU organize this brainstorming session. where we saw the likes of big giants in the oil and natural gas sector coming to think about how to subscribe to this $5 trillion economy, especially in green finance. But we are academic people, so we have less say on the green finance. But definitely I will take the next two Gs that Dr. Adia articulated. One, green manufacturing, and second, green mobility. So at PDU, we have a specific drive on all the 7 verticals of renewable energy, namely solar, wind, bio, tidal, then biofuels, geothermal, hydrogen. The only exception is hydroelectric, which we plan to start with the collaboration from another industry partner. But in all these areas, we have pioneered and we have contributed to both the government and to the industry. In solar, as you would know, or probably the students here may not know, that way back in 2011, it was a revelation for the academia to set up a 1 megawatt solar farm. In the last 12 years, we have been harvesting energy, supplying to the grid. That has been a learning curve, as well as this was one of the very pivotal initiatives taken by the government of Gujarat, and thanks to the government for hand-holding with us. And from 1 megawatt today, in 12 years, we have transcended to 1.8 megawatt, 800 kilowatts coming from rooftop solar. Now with the government inaugurating the portal for rooftop solar, and especially for commercial and non-commercial establishment, we have demonstrated how to connect this to the grid, both from the rooftop solar as well as from the horizontal solar farm. We are also the pioneers in demonstrating 50 kilowatt geothermal energy. Our Dean R&D, Dr. Sarkar, is there, and we also have established through hybrid technologies, both ultrasound and microwave technologies, to scale up biofuels from biowaste. That's one showcasing technology we have shown, and also hand-holding with the L&T. Recently, I'm sure they also came on board here. We have inaugurated a Center for Sustainable Technologies, where we are also planning to set up an electrolyzer for 3 megawatt along with the L&T. And Shell also has invested $1.1 million into green hydrogen, and that's another initiative where we are really growing big. Having said that, we are pioneering not only in setting up proof of concept. There are more than 30 patents surrounding these technologies that we have, and we are trading mostly with the government, because government is our stakeholder, and we want to subscribe to whatever the wish list that the government has on the renewable energy. The next thing that I wanted to share with you is both the rooftop solar and solar farm are integrated to the grid, but 760 kilowatt rooftop solar is now getting coupled to rooftop wind also. For the first time, we have demonstrated 100 kilowatt hour smart grid involving 36 kilowatt rooftop solar and 10 kilowatt wind, rooftop wind. And if you come to PDE Road, you will see the rooftop wind really in action, and we have connected this to grid just 2 weeks back. We also want to subscribe to green manufacturing. And how do we do that? Not only $5 trillion economy is a debatable issue, how as academia we can touch the hem of this garment. The other challenge that we have is in the manufacturing. Our Honorable Finance Minister announced 75,000 crore investment on semiconductor mission. In one sense, that's also affecting our renewable energy, because silicon electronics is a major stake in this matter. So PDU wants to subscribe to manufacturing. Therefore, we are setting up a 45 megawatt solar PV production line with monoperk configuration, and soon we will upgrade that to heterojunctions as well. So 45 megawatt production line is upscale, and we have already established the infrastructure. The machines are getting transported now. hopefully by the end of this year or beginning of next year, we will be commissioning this. And we also have hand-holding with the industries inside Gujarat to trade this manufacturing line. And we are very happy that in the green manufacturing, we are able to contribute. Not only that, we aim at training at least 1,000 engineers in the production line and thereby train them in handling hands-on 9-inch wafers, which otherwise our students, even at IIT Kanpur when I was there, we have never seen our own students handling more than 2-inch wafers. So we want to baptize our students into real production line where the real innovation should come after working in a manufacturing line. That's our take. Therefore, hopefully in 3 to 4 months' time, we will subscribe to this green manufacturing. And we have also brought a new technology in terms of energy transition, not only energy generation, but we are switched gear on energy storage. In energy storage, we know that we are typically captivated by lithium storage, especially when it comes to EV vehicle. But we have a different take. We are thinking about supporting more than 1 megawatt grid support. And that comes from redox battery. And we are going to showcase a vanadium redox flow. The grid is already ready, and we will be integrating in a month's time. Hopefully, you also have a meeting on energy storage and flow batteries, I think, next week. And we will also be there to present our case on the fire safety aspects of this battery. So, redox battery is another initiative where we will be coming in a big way to demonstrate how this can also mediate on commercializing rooftop solar and how the commercial establishments and also especially the local living engagements can use this redox flow battery for captive purpose. Lastly, I just want to make a commitment that we are also into decarbonization. So we talk about carbon capture and sequestration, L&T, and we are setting up a plant on methanol production. And also, one of our colleague has demonstrated a 1 TPD carbon capture pilot plant, which we are trading with one of the universities and industry abroad. So carbon dioxide capture and sequestration is our major venture, which is a center by itself, where we are trying to talk about decarbonization apart from the green manufacturing and green mobility. And I'm sure we will be able to answer some questions on these lines. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Under your and Hasmukh Adia sir's leadership, really PDPU is demonstrating so many new things, which not only is just an educational research, but it is a sort of mind to market products and which will really create also new green jobs. So, sir, as you rightly said about the rooftop, so we are, the state of Gujarat is right now #1 since last 5 years in solar rooftop installation. We have distributed direct benefit transfer of more than 2,500 crore rupees to our 4 lakh and more beneficiaries of solar rooftop scheme under our department. And the market of solar rooftop presently, only this one sector in Gujarat is more than 10,000 crore market. And more than 700 entrepreneurs, very fresh and new entrepreneurs have joined this sector in last 5 years. And we also have one such entrepreneur with us today, Mr. Handa. He is representing the Abalone Clean Energy. They not only deal in the solar rooftop or solar segment, but also on various other renewable energies and particularly waste to energy. So they have started one waste to energy project in Jamnagar recently, and they are upcoming with many such waste to energy projects with various municipal corporations in PPP mode. So I'll request Aditya Handa to address.
My namaste to all the dignitaries on the dais, everyone in the audience, and especially to all the students who have chosen to be here, spend an evening trying to learn about a new subject. As somebody representing the world of business and industry, I was very, very happy to read the title because it juxtaposes two things which normally are thought to be polar opposites. Economic growth on one side, being 5 trillion, and climate change on the other. For far too long as a country, we've fallen into this debate of development versus environment. And we've been led to believe that for development, we have to sacrifice the environment, and it's a trade-off. But today's world is very, very different. In today's world, the response to climate change is actually driving economic growth, and I will try to give a few examples in some time to illustrate this point. And it is equally true that without a response to climate change, we cannot achieve economic growth. And I think it is very, very pertinent, therefore, to talk about both these topics together. I'd like to highlight that when the Honorable Prime Minister laid out India's climate goals, there is one particular goal which has gotten less attention than it should, and that goal is to reduce the carbon intensity of the economy by 45% by the year 2030. What does this mean? This means that today we have a certain GDP, which means we are manufacturing some goods, we are providing some services, we are engaging in some agriculture, growing some crops. To do all this, we are emitting a certain amount of carbon, a certain amount of pollution. Now, this goal means that we will increase this level of production, but not increase the level of carbon. The carbon intensity will have to come down. If you just imagine for a moment the implication of this vision, the simple implication is that we cannot continue to produce goods and provide services and do agriculture in the way that we used to. If we look at where does carbon come from, carbon comes largely from energy, from mobility, from agriculture, surprisingly from waste and waste management, which is a topic close to my heart. I will touch upon that also in some time. These are all the types of sources where carbon will come, which means we need to fundamentally reimagine this sector. There are two types of changes that are happening here. One is where the energy source is switched from a fossil fuel source, which is a polluting source, to a green source, which can be solar, wind, others. And I think there as a state and as a country, we've done a fantastic job. We have exceeded our targets before time, and we have taken very, very ambitious targets for 2030, and I'm sure we will exceed those as well. But an equally important area is where industries are getting reimagined. So for example, switching source would mean that if I want to travel in a car, instead of using a petrol or a diesel car, I will use an electric car. But I will continue using a car in the same way that I was using before. But when you fundamentally reimagine the concept of mobility, so for example, if you say a ride-sharing model, which means that instead of one person traveling in that car, now there are 2 or 3, that means carbon intensity came down by 1/3. Instead of traveling in individual vehicles or even in buses, when you travel in metro, which we are on the verge of sort of having now in our city, carbon intensity goes by 1/10. And this is going to happen for all industries: energy, steel production, cement, mobility. And I think here lies the opportunity. Let me try to focus on the opportunity from an area which I am very familiar with, which is waste management. I think the context here is quite simple, that as the report says, in order to touch 5 trillion and in order for Gujarat to be a substantial part of that 5 trillion, we will need to boost up our services sector. We are already very strong in manufacturing, but we will boost up services like IT, financial services. Now we can all understand that the engine for all these services are cities. All these services originate from cities. It is cities like Bangalore, Hyderabad, which have done a great job in building these services, and so it will happen in Gujarat. But to expand cities, to build cities, we need good quality urban infrastructure which is also sustainable. For example, air quality will be a primary determinant of where talent would like to live. All of us saw in the lockdown that people chose to go and live in the mountains because they could work from anywhere, which itself shows that they want to live in clean environments. Now, if you look at cities, the challenges for the city are obviously managing its transport, managing its wastewater, managing its waste. Let me come to how the waste management industry is getting reimagined. India uses about 1 billion tons of coal a year, which is about 1,000 million tons of coal. Against this, we generate waste of agriculture waste, industrial waste, municipal waste, everything put together of about 250 million tons. So 25% of India's coal consumption equivalent is generated as waste. Now the reimagination happening here is where we stop looking at waste as a waste and we start looking at it as a resource. And I think under the leadership of Gujarat state, everybody involved, we've had the benefit of policies that have supported this reimagination. The solar policy, the wind policy, the e-mobility policy, and the waste-to-energy policy. And within this policy, there are several projects coming up in Gujarat. And I feel confident to say that in the next year or two, we will have a situation where all of Gujarat's municipal waste will be channelized to generate energy or to recover materials. As an example, our company commissioned Gujarat's first waste-to-energy plant in the city of Jamnagar in this year. And after this plant starting, I can confidently challenge anybody to claim that Jamnagar city will not have even 1 kilo of incremental waste generation for the next 20 years. That is how this project is planned. And this is going to happen in all the other cities one by one. I want to end by telling the students what is the opportunity here for people coming into industry. And let me tell you a couple of examples. All of us know what happened in telecom, right? Before a landline reached every home of every village, a cell phone reached every person in every village. There is this leapfrog that happens in technology. So unlike the West, which have already built out their infrastructure and cities, we are still building our cities. And so we have an opportunity to leapfrog technology and go to the next technology. So for example, today, all of us generate plastic waste. India's recycling rate of plastic is one of the highest in the world, which is about 25 to 30%, right? But in the last 3 to 4 years, we have seen technologies. For example, now there is optical sorting. So there is a machine which has an optical sensor through which the plastic passes, and it will scan it and it will tell you that based on the molecular structure of this material, is this PET, is this HDP, is this LDP, and sort it automatically. And if it gets sorted automatically, it can easily be recycled. Using these technologies, we can reach as high as a 70–80% recycling rate. There are technologies now where every dustbin is fitted with a SIM card. And that dustbin will send a message to the truck to say that now I am full, please come and pick here. Because otherwise trucks just move in rounds, right? Even if there is a half load, you are still spending on petrol, diesel time going around there, but now you do it only when it's needed. And there are several such examples I can rattle out. And I think hence the message is, this is the time to go out and invent something. I'm cognizant we are in a technology institute, so I think this is a very good place to say this. The time is right to go out and invent something. The time of using climate solutions as an economic engine is now. And if all of you or any of you sort of choose to venture that path, I think that good ideas today have a lot of green financing, carbon financing that is available. It has a lot of policy support from government of Gujarat through climate change department, through other departments. So that is the message that I will leave all of you with. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Aditya Bhai. So like renewable energy is very important sector for the future of our economy. Equally, rural sector and the agriculture sector are also equally important. And it is very surprising to say that the growth rate of economic output from agriculture and food processing is constantly encouraging and increasing in the state of Gujarat. And we have with us the representative of NABARD, the National Bank for Rural Development and Agriculture, Shri Gyanendra Maniji. He is the Chief General Manager of NABARD. He has served in various states of India, including Northeast. So, sir, I would like to invite you to address us your thoughts on climate finance and particularly rural and agriculture economy.
Respected dignitaries on the dais and dear students and other friends. Briefly about what NABARD is doing as far as climate change is concerned. You may be knowing that NABARD is an national implementing entity for two funds, National Adaptation Fund Climate Change and National Adaptation Fund, UN Adaptation Fund, and Direct Access Initiative for Green Climate Fund. Not talking much about all the things, maybe knowing. So far, 40 projects have been financed under these projects, 30 under National Adaptation Fund for Climate Change, 2 under Green Climate Fund, and 6 under Adaptation Fund. Total sanction amount of 1,850 crore and with disbursement of about 970 crore. These are the grant products and except Green Climate Fund. What I want to emphasize is that as far as green climate, green energy, green financing is concerned, still we are depending on the much on the grant products. When it comes to the agriculture sector, are we ready for the commercializing or making it the climate resilient? Because there are certain issues. One is that there are few experiments, I will tell about that. Like Gujarat state is one, which has a wonderful experiment as far as Kisan Sky project is there, where Surya Shakti Kisan Yojana was there, and then 10% was coming from the farmers and rest 90% were the subsidy. And in this process, farmers were using solar energy for energizing their pump sets, and also they were able to generate excess income by generating income and evacuating it to the grid. So in that process, recently I had been to the one area, one farmer was having just 1 hectare of land, and then he was able to generate 4.5 lakh other than the agriculture sector, other than the production process. So he has got this much income from the adopting from the conventional sources to solar energy sources. Of late, there are many experiments going on. Even NABARD has developed a certain replicable models. It has developed its own, it has established its own green climate fund, and as well as a climate change center at its training institutes. So we are still in the process of experimenting what more can be done as far as agriculture sector is concerned. Now a few things come. Now converting the agriculture production process to a green production process, whether 3-4 things are there and whether bankers are willing to finance that one. First thing is that whether that technology is available where we can demonstrate farmers, this is a green technology, you can adopt it and it is also what you can say viable for you, it will give you the same level of income what you are generating at present. Second thing, whether this is available with that one, whether agriculture universities or Kisan Vigyan Kendras, they are doing this type of research where entire agriculture production process can be transformed to the changed to the green cultivation system. That is one thing. If they are going to do it, whether there are sufficient demonstrations available, we can go ahead with the demonstration, showing whether to the farmers, whether this technology available, whether you are willing to adopt that one. If they are willing to adopt that one, whether bankers are convinced to finance those technologies. Say, for example, in 2019, Reserve Bank of India has included solarization of pump set as one of the priority sector financing components. Now, because of this one, now farmers are willing to adopt this technology for solarization of that one. But in this component also, lot of grants available. Second thing is that now, if you look at the commercialization of the agriculture sector from green climate point of view, is that now bankers are fixing scale of finance. In scale of finance, we have different components. One component is that, say for example, like fertilizer use. Fertilizer use, but we are not using the fertilizer as per the recommended practices, and then again, government is spending a lot of money on the soil health cards, but farmers are not using those soil health cards. Whether are we sensitizing to the farmers this much? If you start using the fertilizer, you are wasting fertilizers, which is also polluting the climate. So these type of research are now required. Bankers have to look from that point of view. Agricultural universities have to look from that point of view. These are the components of the scale of finance. What product, what component can be converted into the green component? So that is another important aspect where you have to come into the play. As far as now sensitization is there, regulators have already started doing that one. If you look at the SEBI has already requested almost 1,000 entities to come out with the business responsibility reports. Now every commercial bank is also now started publishing ESG, as Adya sir was telling. But whether our agriculture sector is ready at present to adopt this climate resilient agriculture. Issue is that who is going to demonstrate all those things to them? The important thing is that now banker and agriculture research institutes, universities, they have to come together and see what are the components which can be easily made, which can be made available to the farmers, which are climate resilient, and then accordingly the scale of finance and other components can be introduced to the farmers. So these are the important components. NABARD is doing little bit about all those things, but only thing is that a lot of interventions is required from the government, state government, central government, as well as the regulators, as well as the farmers to whom these technologies are to be passed on. So these are the important interventions we need to look at from that point of view. As far as NABARD is concerned, NABARD has started demonstrating different climate resilient products to the farmers out of its own green climate change funds. So as far as this is concerned, NABARD is doing its bit, but ultimately now time has come. We need to have a separate working group in each and every state where we can work together, like what best can be done for the farmers that is required for climate financing is concerned. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. You very rightly said that we really require to reduce the climate vulnerability of our farmers. And Professor Vimal Mishra is sitting in this room. So with his help and his team, and with the help of IIT Gandhinagar and IIM Ahmedabad, the Department of Climate Change is really working in this aspect. We also have developed one concept note for Green Climate Fund. And we really would like to push that through, so that we can really work in coastal areas, in the remote areas where our tribal population, our farmers, our Sagar Khedus are vulnerable, and we can really ensure their economic well-being with the changing climate. So I would also like to request Director of Indian Institute of Technology to address us about how technology is useful in all this changing scenario of economy and the climate, and how we can move towards more smart things and technology-driven things. So, Amit Prashant, sir.
Good evening, everyone. I'll just take a few minutes from you. I think there is a lot of new knowledge that we had from the session today. A few points that I can add to this in terms of what we do at IIT Gandhinagar and how the technology can drive the whole business in a bigger way. So we believe in doing things as experimental playground on this campus, and that will get adopted in other places. So many aspects of the construction on this campus and the establishment and the management will have elements of, you can say, sustainable management, sustainable development, including water conservation devices, passive energy systems, passive cooling systems, you can say, the sewage treatment plant that we use doesn't use any energy. Actually, it's a root zone-based design in a way. When we talk about climate, it's not only about what we breathe or what we have as or we need as energy, but there are many other aspects. Conservation of, in general, resources, using optimal resources for betterment of the society, for better economy, is the overall target of sustainable development. And that's where we have a Center for Sustainable Development, where we look at problems from end to end. Different faculty members from various disciplines, various areas coming together are working on the problems. If I look at water sector, you will have a civil engineer, earth system people, even computer scientist for measurement aspects, software aspects. There are several people that need to work together, or at least side by side, to find a solution in the end which will have long-term impact or in a meaningful impact. So this kind of center system helps us establishing that in that sense. In IIT Gandhinagar, we have strength in certain sectors, including climate modeling that Vimal, Udit, they work in resilience of the infrastructure as well. Besides this, there is a group which works on energy sector, including alternative energy resources. Pretty soon we'll be launching a new program in that area regarding while working you can do your master's, that is called e-masters program in management of renewable energy resources related aspects. So this institute welcomes all of you to participate in all those activities and do better for Gujarat and India for reaching the targets and going beyond that. We can all work together and reach that there for sure. Whatever we heard from all the speakers, and I mentioned a brief few points, they're all leading to one thing, that the solution is going to come from all the aspects put together, not only technology. So technology, finance, your innovative hat with thinking about sustainability at the top, putting that together is going to find the solution. Above all this, what we have to put in front is who is going to use it, what is going to happen, including the policy which creates a push, you can say, and finance which creates a pull factor in anything that is to be done in a way. Of course, with automation of systems, we can improve efficiencies. I saw one startup which was trying to reduce the consumption of energy in motor operations. If we can achieve that, of course, the battery life, what we have for the electric vehicles now, that can double almost, right? So that way, there are energy generation aspects, there are energy conservation aspects, or reducing the consumption of energy aspects. There are various issues, there are various aspects that we can all work together on those from different perspectives. So what is important in the end is we join hands with technology, with policy, with finance sector, and the users. So with that, I'll, you can say, conclude by saying that let's keep on having discussions and keep that agenda in mind that economy and sustainability have to run together. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So now the floor we can open for the discussion. So the volunteer will also bring mic to you if you want to ask any question. So you can raise your hand. And before that, I'll request the moderator, sir, to, okay. So we'll take questions from the audience. So we have around 10 minutes. Yeah, one hand is raised. Shantanu, can you help?
અજય આગળ આવી જાઓ.
Hello. Hello, sir. My question is, our most of taxes in this country are from the petrol and diesel, right? So if we using electric vehicle rather than this petrol diesel, that will impact on our economic directly, because we have to pay so much loan to other countries, and our taxes are so important. All right. So if we starting using this electric vehicle, so we couldn't able to get so much taxes to pay these loans. So what should we do? If we look at the environment point of view, we have to took this electric vehicle, but we have to also pay the loans as well. So please answer this question.
So your question is that if we stop using petrol and diesel, the government
Yes, sir.
revenues will come down.
Yes.
And we won't have enough resources, right? That's what your question is.
Yes. So we have
It's not correct, because the same argument in case of Gujarat people had taken. People had said that if there is no prohibition in Gujarat, Gujarat will get so much of income from alcohol, potable alcohol, right, from state excise duty. And that income is useful for benefiting the poor. But that's no argument, because what happens is when people don't spend money on alcohol, they spend money on other luxury goods or comfort goods or consumer durables, consumer non-durables, and that amount is collected by way of taxes by the state government. So the state government has got more income from GST coming out of these goods instead of alcohol income. So it more or less compensates. So similarly, when there will be less amount to be spent on petrol and diesel, people will spend this money for some other things in the economy, and that will generate revenue for the government. So one need not unnecessarily be worried about the taxation of union or state government out of petrol, right? That is the, if the electricity is cheaper and people have to spend less money on electricity, they will have investable surplus, they will have consumable surplus, so they can use it on other consumption, and on which the taxes will come. Okay.
Good evening, sir. My name is Pujan Vyas. My question is, our government are project of electric vehicle, and many people are increased electric vehicle. But sir, our government why should don't use electric vehicle?
I mean, would you like to, otherwise I can give it. No, it's only a question of adoption over a period, you know. Everything cannot be done in a day. The problems, yeah.
This is also, there is no other ambulance or a police vehicle. If you said any police bike, this is electric, they all are using petrol and diesel, and telling us that minister doesn't use the electric car as well, and they saying us that use electric vehicle. Government doesn't use this. The question is, the government started
Understood,
first.
understood. Don't belabor the question too much. We have understood your point, okay? The question is that it's a question of gradual adoption by government. As you know, the technology for electrical vehicle is still evolving. There are issues of battery life, how much can you run on the road after charging it. There are issues of charging points at various places. So everything will come. Once the thing, you must remember that when CNG was in 20 years ago, Gujarat government was the first one to convert all its vehicle on CNG. So government does adopt it first ahead of others, you know. But it will come. It will come in government vehicles, it will come in ambulances, it will come in police vehicles, everywhere it will come.
With the permission of sir, let me also add a few things. Actually, way back in 2015, we came up with a policy to incentivize and to give subsidy in respect of purchase of e-vehicles. primarily electric two-wheelers and electric three-wheelers. This subsidy scheme has picked up very well, and you would be happy to note that a large number of students are also coming forward and they are purchasing these electric vehicles on which we are giving subsidy. Beyond that, we have a subsidy scheme for electric three-wheelers also, and we have also realized that you need to have a supporting system, like you should have some system of charging. So for charging stations and all, we have also come out with a policy. Very recently, in our ports and transport department, we have come up with a policy which is in addition to the FAME 2 policy of Ministry of Heavy Industries, Government of India, under which two-wheelers, purchase of two-wheelers, three-wheelers and four-wheelers are being subsidized. So under these policies, we are taking initiative, and of course, over a period of time with the help of urban local bodies, we are coming up with charging stations also. So there could be some teething problems, but nevertheless, we are marching ahead, and we are pretty much sure that in the days to come, gradually, we would be significantly switching over to electric vehicles. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? If there is no question, then I think we are towards the, yeah? Okay.
My question is like, when we are talking about farmers, so like you are taking, like you are telling that for farmers we are adopting some climate change strategies like to avoid the crop damage and all. But like what are the current gaps that you are observing into that we can work on? Like if you are like specifying the for specifically climate change for farmers, so what are the gaps which are there according to you that on which we can work on?
Udit ji or Vimal Mishra sir would like.
See, right now, I mean, farmers are not that much sensitized. What is the climate change, what are the technologies to be used, and what is the alternatives available before them. Right now, we are, as a government, as a, whatever other agencies are there, we are managing only supply side. Honestly speaking, because there is no awareness, there is no demand also. But most of the technologies, but mostly we are into solars. As far as now we are talking about the green climate, maximum interventions has been done in that area. But that is not that, cheap, because that is not viable for the farmers. Unless it is subsidized, farmers are not coming forward. But more than that, now time has come, we have to sensitize the farmers more than that. On one hand, say for example, a farmer is cultivating 10 acres of paddy. From 10 acres, he are producing some, say for example, 200 acres. But in the same village, you will find, say, another farmer having the same acre of land, applying the same input, he is cultivating only 150 quintals. My suggestion is that there is yield gap. Though applying the same level of technology, same level of input, everything is that. So that 50 quintals of additional can be always be cultivated with a lesser amount of land. So if the farmers start adopting these technologies which can be made available to them, that can only come by demonstrating them what are the climate resilient technologies for that, then and whether that is can be made available to them at a cheaper rate. So as already said, these things are very important, and you have to see that how we can sensitize the farmers to come forward to use these climate resilient technologies.
Thank you, sir.
So yeah, before we go for what of things, I would like to. Okay. So I will now request Shri Bipin Talati sir, the Joint Secretary of Climate Change Department, to offer vote of thanks.
On behalf of Climate Change Department and Gujarat Energy Development Agency both, I would like to convey my heartfelt gratitude to all the esteemed guests for such an informative and engaging panel discussion. Thank you, Dr. Hasmukh Hadia sir, Chairman Standing Committee, PDEU. Thank you, Haider sir, for giving us continuously guiding and particularly giving us such opportunities. Thank you, Gyanendra Maniji, for coming over here and enlighten us about the rural economy. Thank you, Dr. S. Sundar Manoharanji. Thank you, Amit Prashantji. Thank you, Udit Bhatia-ji, for wholehearted support from IIT. Since 4 days, we are continuously engaging with you for such a successful function. Thank you, Aditya Handa-ji, for such a informative session. We would like to thank especially Haider sir for continuously guiding us, Education Department for continuously supporting us, and faculty, team and students of IIT Gandhinagar for making this event a grand success. In Gujarat, with coming up of more than 8 gigafactories, making manufacturing hub for more than 200 gigawatt of the solar panels in a future, production of the hydrogen cell also is coming up, production of the electrolytes, battery storage facilities. Gujarat is gearing up for making one of its kind ecosystem of the hydrogen production facility along with the hybrid solar and wind power. And so we aspire along with other states, and in that especially climate change related sector, we together achieve the target of $5 trillion economy hand in hand with the Panchamrit goals given by our Honorable Prime Minister, sir. Thank you very much, all of you.
All dignitaries and friends are requested to join for the dinner.